Hi, I'm Father Jim Martin. I'm a Jesuit priest, editor-at-large at America Magazine, and I am very jealous that I'm not there in Rio. Some pastoral duties, a wedding and a baptism, meant that I couldn't join you, so I confess the sin of envy today. The U.S. Bishops' Conference asked me to talk to you today about vocation, a vocation to the priesthood, but also vocation in general. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the call. What does that mean? Well, there's two popular misconceptions about vocation and call today among young people. The first thing is that a call is supposed to mean that you see visions and hear voices, which doesn't happen all that frequently. The second thing is that vocation only means vocation to the priesthood or to religious life. But both of those things are not accurate. Vocation, though, is really about becoming the person who God wants you to become, and finding out who that person is and what that person is meant to do in God's eyes. Now, how do you do that? How do you find your vocation? Well, it all starts with desire, believe it or not. Now, desire gets a kind of bad rap in Christian spiritual circles these days for two reasons. Number one, desire is often equated only with sexual desire. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Number two, desire is often confused with just surface wants, like I want a new iPad or I want a new car. But desire is really at the heart of understanding who we are and what we are meant to become and what we're meant to do. Think of it on a very simple level. A man and a woman are drawn together out of desire, physical, emotional, spiritual, and in that way discover their vocations as married people. Someone like myself who's a priest was drawn to the priesthood from desire, a simple attraction to things like the sacraments, and in my case, to service, to serving other people. But in another field, you might have someone who's interested in biology or science who feels a desire to become a doctor, right? Or something else, a biologist maybe, right? So in these ways, God calls to us through our desires, through simple attractions. Now, part of it is kind of scraping off the surface wants and trying to figure out what's at your deepest level. So how do you tell your surface wants from your deep desires? Well, first of all, pray to understand them. St. Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuit order to which I belong, often said, pray to understand your desires. Also, it may take some time on reflecting on what you like, what you're attracted to, what gives you joy. One of my favorite images is of a glass of water. When I was little, we were in school and we were asked to go to a local pond and plunge a glass of water into the pond, take it out and see what came up. You know, all sorts of like bugs and things like that. But it took a while for things to settle, right? At the beginning, it was all very cloudy and murky. Sometimes in our own lives, it takes a while for things to settle so that we can see clearly and see exactly what it is that are our holy desires, the real deep desires that call us to be who we are. It may take some time. Sometimes questions help a lot. What do I like to do? What gives me joy? What makes me energetic, right? Is it the sacramental life of a priest, right? Is it religious life? Is it married life? Is it some aspect of the single life? What is it that I like to do? What are the things that are my deepest desires? Or the question that changed my life, this is what someone asked me that helped me to think about becoming a Jesuit and a priest. What would you do if you could do anything you wanted to do in life? Sometimes these questions help to stir us up and to bring those deep desires to the surface. Ultimately, my friends, our deepest desire is for God. Remember that saying from St. Augustine who said, our hearts are restless until they rest in you, O Lord? You know that strange feeling that there's something more, there's always something more to life? That's a desire for God, for more. And guess what? That desire is planted in you by God. That's one way that God has of calling you to Himself. That feeling of emptiness, of loneliness, of something more, that's God calling to you. So pay attention to that basic desire for God. And the more you listen to these holy desires, the more you become the person whom God wants you to be, whom God calls you to be, whom God created, happy and holy and yourself. And you've discovered your vocation. For myself, it's been as a Jesuit priest. Best decision I ever made. For you, we'll see. keep praying and throw in a prayer for me while you're at it. Have a great time at World Youth Day. May God bless you. This is Father Jim Martin at America Magazine.